I'm happy to pass the mic to Elena Novozhilova, our next speaker, criminal linguist, an accredited expert, Recently, they published articles on extremism, on the discreditation, so their services are extremely meaningful now. I'm happy to pass her the mic.
Служба по надзору в сфере связи информационных технологий и массовых коммуникаций и расскажет о возможности научных.
Today she will talk about the work of current legal experts in criminal linguistics. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me on this conference. It's a great honor. I'm happy to be here together with my great colleagues from the DISRNet, and I will try to contribute to our discussion. I am an independent criminal linguist. I'm accredited by Roskomnadzor, but this is not affiliation. I'm an independent consultant. My talk could be titled, Does the Academy of Science need linguistic expertise? But I decided not to call my talk in such a direct manner. Legal expertise is using scientific achievement, art, or any other technical skills for the justice in court. The forensic analysis is prone to mistakes, of course. We, as we care about academic honesty, we see around us a lot of cases of misconduct in forensics too. And here I mean all kinds of forensic investigations. Quite often they are published in the media, for example, along with political events that cause a lot of stir. And we have a desire to change the reality, to have only good expertise. It can be guaranteed by the Russian Academy of Science. We could create a state-owned institution on, for example, on the base of the Russian Academy of Science. But we do have institutions which are close to this ideal. This is what the contemporary court industry looks like. We have state-owned systems, we have independent entities, and we have a lot of private independent experts who work as consultants, and they are affiliated with universities. Many notorious forensic texts are written in these centers affiliated with universities. Legally, they are independent experts. The current expert center at the Russian Academy of Science is no different from the current centers that exist at the Kaluga University or at St. Petersburg University. So the academic label does not save us from the mistakes. Why? Because forensic analysis has to be based on specific rules that do not have anything to do with academic ethics. At least they are not directly related. I will go through them and I will explain their gist. I won't use any theory of forensics or the legislation. I will just enumerate these difficulties that we face. Here are the general principles of forensic analysis. The expert has to be independent, the research has to be objective and full. This is a beautiful declaration, of course, but what follows from it is that forensic analysis has the aim of serving the court and it has a lot of conclusions to be drawn. First of all, forensic expertise is not scientific activity. There is no academic research here. The experts are given the task, so new scientific knowledge is not produced, unfortunately. Forensic analysis uses only the knowledge that the science has a consensus about. It does not use any ambivalent findings. The work happens only in the framework of a certain specialization of the experts, and the classification of expert specialization is different from the classification of academic disciplines. It is extremely important. For example, as a result of mistakes that happened because the expert went beyond their specialization, I could quote Svetlana Kokolkiyeva's case. She is a journalist. The court found propaganda of terrorism in her texts.
Была, значит, одна некачественная экспертиза, представленная стороной обвинения, и очень
expertise
заключений, представленных заключений специалистов, которые приобщила сторона
from the prosecution side was inadequate. However, the defense offered a lot of evidence from the stars of the Russian science. However, the court did not accept it when Prokopieva appealed to the Constitution Court. The Constitution Court in July this year said that since the experts went beyond their competences, their linguistic competences,
то мы эту жалобу не принимаем. До свидания.
We do not accept this appeal.
Судебно-экспертная работа имеет этические запреты, более жесткие, чем научная деятельность.
Forensic analysis has more limitations in its ethics. It is not only about the validity of the data, it is also about the limitations in the methods. You cannot use surveys, you cannot use experiments, almost never.
Результаты ваших опросов и экспериментов напрямую отражаются на судебных решениях, и люди, совершенно неповинные в ваших... Люди вынуждены отвечать за проявление вашего научного интереса рублем, если это гражданский
процесс. Have to be responsible for basically your words. They will be punished with fines or even with prison confinement. Another limitation is that during the expertise, you have to collect the materials on your own. There is a limitation on expressing your personal opinion. It has to be objective.
Имеется в виду, что нельзя обсуждать ее предмет.
Also, when the expertise is produced, you cannot discuss it with anyone.
Объективность судебного эксперта. Уже немало. Другая
This is quite a lot of restrictions.
Которая наверняка неизвестна ученым.
Another thing to mention, which is hardly known to scientists, is the processual trap. It was suggested by post-Soviet criminalists at the end of the 20th century. It means a legal collision. In this case, it means a contradiction between the experts' formal work and the forensic content. So we do have certain scientific knowledge. Our work is evaluated by the court, sometimes by the prosecutor, but they don't have the relevant knowledge. They have to evaluate our contribution, but they can't do it adequately. This is a collision that will always be there, and it will always provoke experts to abuse their powers. What abuse do I mean? In the linguistic forensic analysis, it is the absence of research, so we have only the introduction and the conclusions, no research itself. The absence of logical connection between the parts of research, the absence of logical connection between the bulk of the work and the conclusions, and
как бы
the
синтаксически
expertise being
правильный
completely
текст,
illogical.
но логики там нет. И это, конечно, логические ошибки. Прежде всего, подмена тезиса в исследовании и превращение вероятного в категорическое.
Also, sometimes the probability is turned into a truth.
Я даже не начинаю
As for the
рассказывать.
literature review here, I just don't want to go in there.
Похоже на то,
There are a lot of violations in writing the literature. Actually, it is very similar to what students do in their graduation papers, and it's very similar to what scientists do in their applications for grants.
о сугубо научной этике.
When we talk
Потому что
about
здесь адресат иной.
academic
Здесь
ethics,
адресат не научное
it
сообщество.
goes without any attention widely.
Следующее объективное препятствие
One more
это,
objective limitation is
в судебной
the
экспертизе.
legal fiction in expertise.
Это правовой прием,
It is a legal approach
несуществующее
when a non-existent fact
признается
is claimed to be existing, or vice versa.
как с чем-то реальным. Либо наоборот, фикция всегда ложна. Почему мы говорим о юридических фикциях? Почему мы
Why do we
применяем
talk
этот
about
термин,
legal fictions? Why do we
предположим,
use this
в
term?
судебной экспертизе?
Why do we
Потому
use
что
it
одна из
when we
материнских
talk about
наук
legal
судебной
expertise?
экспертизы
Because
криминалистика, а это наука юридического цикла.
it
Поэтому здесь
stems
уместно
from
применение
law.
данного термина. Где могут возникать и проявляться фикции? Ну, например, в экспертной диагностике.
Fictions can emerge in expert diagnostics.
Это приложение,
Diagnostics
если вкратце и грубо,
is, to put it very short,
диагностируемому объекту, диагностирующему.
is
И
to use
совершенно справедливо могут быть
the
диагностирующие объекты,
diagnosing
это из теории
object.
следует, они могут быть нематериальными.
Sometimes these objects can be immaterial, abstract, non-existent. So we basically use a template, an abstract template, to analyze a specific speech, for example, if it's linguistic expertise. And this abstract template can turn into fiction at any point, and nobody would be able to track it, at least now.
Еще одна объективная трудность
One more objective difficulty that emerges is the difficulty to organize the work of the legal expertise center. Why do we mention it?
вот этих правил
The need to observe all of these rules, as practice suggests, is directly related to the validity of the forensic analysis. By the way, these requirements are not always documented in the law. They're not always legally fixed, but they're always important. And here we mean the choice of the expert, explaining them their rights and their obligations.
Самое главное — разъяснение границ компетенции.
The most important thing here is to explain the limitations in actual research. It is not, again, the formal obligation of the director, of the supervisor. The supervisor has to go through these things before every case of analysis, of forensic analysis. Basically, the head of the center has to repeat it over and over again for every expert to get it finally. And it is difficult, as practice suggests. What is more,
заниматься обеспечением работы экспертного конвейера. Это не однократные заявки.
The head of the forensic center has to provide for the work which is similar to a conveyor belt. And this conveyor belt has to be provided for in methodology and in all other facets. So our hypothetical organization attached to the Russian Academy of Science has to take into account all of this for something to change. A lot of things depend on the personality of the director or the directors of such an organization.
он все равно когда-нибудь уйдет.
A given director won't be able to do it forever. They will leave sooner or later.
То организация может стремительно
And
деградировать.
the
потому что
organization
никто не будет осуществлять
sometimes
контроль.
can degrade very fast with no control in place.
Она станет наихудшей.
And then this organization will become the worst in the row of its kind. We have to remember the experts' trap. We cannot be evaluated objectively. The court can just see the label of the university, of the authority. And then these pieces of analysis will be taken for granted in court. To draw the conclusion, the idea of creating another forensic center is not as good as it might have seemed.
Нам изначально. Но то, что я перечислила, это все-таки
The things that I have enumerated are just hindrances that we have to overcome.
Их преодолевать. Благодарю вас за внимание.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Елена, спасибо за...
Слайд чуть-чуть побудет на экране.
Да, конечно, спасибо большое.
Elena, thank you very much. Thank you very much for such an important contribution to our conference. This topic is extremely relevant for us these days. Hopefully, we'll be able to find a way out here and to be more protected.